Hey, it's me, the HumpBackDiver, the land-dwelling diver, and I'm back with another batch of killer portraits. For anyone new who hasn't watched my first video on this series, please do. I did portraits for 5 other killers in that video, and who knows, maybe your favorite killer was made in there, so watch it, please. But if you wish to continue anyways, basically, I found a little game called Dead by Daylight about 2 years ago, and I thought it'd be really cool to start an art series about it. And I felt like every killer in the game should have a portrait that either represents their ability and or personality in it. And while making each portrait, I decided to give myself about 3 rules to follow for each of them. The rules being, make these in portrait format and not a landscape, show the abilities or the personality of the killers in them, and for the licensed killers, only use their abilities shown in Dead by Daylight and not their original media. And while everything is the same from the last video, there is one unique thing about this video. Most of the killers this time around were actually requested by you guys, the viewers, which a decent amount of people actually requested for certain killers, so I decided for this video I would do some requests. And hey, if you got a specific killer that you really want me to do, please let me know down in the comments below. Alright, enough chit chat, let's get to the video, shall we? The Shape, otherwise known as Michael Myers, in case you didn't know that. He is one of horror's most iconic slashers, arguably having one of the best themes in history, and being the first licensed killer in Dead by Daylight. And while I didn't play DBD 8 years ago, as I said before, I've only been playing Dead by Daylight for around 2 years now. But from what I've heard, Michael was incredibly important to the game's history, as without him, DBD wouldn't be as big as it is now. So I wanted to make sure to make his portrait as good as possible. And with his main power being so simple, which is the power to stalk survivors, that is of course what I wanted to emphasize in his portrait here. So before I get into the making of this portrait, I just want to note that this one in particular was a lot bigger than my other portraits, since this one took at least 3 canvases to complete. And that's because shrinking things usually destroys the quality of the thing, so Michael had to be done on a completely separate canvas from the main portrait. Also, as you'll see later on, this is one of the very few portraits that has like a heavy emphasis on the background. And that's because Michael here is a stealth killer. So I kinda had to make a background to emphasize him like stalking from a distance. And since like a huge part of his power is stalking survivors, I of course wanted to try to include a survivor in his portrait here, which actually gave me a huge slew of problems while making this. Trying to include Michael and a survivor in the same portrait kinda gave me a lot of problems with framing, and while it did take me a while, I did eventually find a way to incorporate them both, by having a survivor work on a generator in the foreground while Michael is in the background stalking from a distance, of course. So while making the portrait was pretty difficult, it was also really great for experimentation, since I got to work with a perspective tool in Procreate. And while it probably doesn't look very good, it was really great to help experiment with perspectives a lot more, which, spoiler, I did end up using for a future killer down the line here in this video, so yeah, that was really cool. But other than that, this is a really fun portrait to make. And while I didn't have any complications with the coloring process, it was more annoying than anything, since I not only had to color in the survivor, the generator, Michael, but also the background in general, which is also annoying when you include the fact that I had to bounce around 3 different canvases for this one, which I also think gave me some back pain, but in my opinion, I think it was worth it, honest to God. But anyway, the portrait is now complete. Alright, I'm gonna be honest here. These guys are probably my least favorite killers, design-wise. I just don't see the appeal at all for these guys. Their power is also not very fun to fight against, to be honest. Their power is also kinda disappointing, especially since there's another killer whose power is essentially what Legion should have been like, but we'll get to them in the future. But even though I don't personally like them as characters, I do know they are pretty popular characters within the community. And I also never want to show bias towards certain killers or characters for the series. So despite me not really liking them, I still wanted to give them the same amount of love for their portrait as my other ones. And since their power, Feral Frenzy, is pretty simple, I also wanted to include a bit of their character in this portrait as well. Alright, before I start talking about the portrait itself, I just wanted to say that this portrait in general was the most time-consuming portrait out of the ones I've made so far. While the other time-lapse videos were around 4 to 5 minutes, this one was 8 minutes long. Which, you know, is shortened for these videos, so it's only about 2 minutes here, but in reality the original recording is actually 8 minutes long. And that's because instead of drawing one character on the portrait, I had to do all 4 since, you know, they are a legion of members. And a little fun fact about this portrait, this was gonna be originally a lot more simple, but I didn't feel like that was right to do them like that, so I decided to scrap the original draft I had of this, and decided to redo the entire portrait. And I personally like this new version I came up with a lot better, to be honest. For each of the Legion members, I tried to reference their pose off of their character, I guess you could say. Like, Frank's here is based off a little frame from his Mori, and, you know, it is probably the one who enjoys killing the most out of the 4. And for Julie's pose, I tried to base it off their Feral Frenzy animation in-game. And I'm pretty sure she also enjoys killing just like Frank. As for Susie, I did read on the Legion's lore, and from what I've read, it seems that Susie was the youngest and the most inexperienced out of the Legion members, to the point where even Frank had to, like, show her how to kill. So I try to base her pose off, like, maybe she's new to this and, you know, doesn't know how to hold a weapon correctly. I don't know. I try my best. And as for Joey, I don't know if this is true, but I have heard that he is the most, I guess you could say, normal out of the 4. I don't think he really enjoys the killings and probably regrets it from what I've heard, so I decided to have him not even show a weapon in the portrait here. And to finish off the portrait, I decided to add in the little blood effects whenever you have to mend in-game. It probably doesn't look very good on the portrait, but I thought it was really cool to add. But anyways, the portrait is now complete. Alright, next up we got the Dredge. And I'm gonna be honest here. I have no idea what the hell this thing is. It looks like a raw turkey with a questionably shaped mouth that I don't even know if I should censor or not. Now, despite not knowing much about the Dredge, I actually think it's one of the best killer designs in the game. Truly, it kinda makes me wish we had a lot more non-human killers in the game. But anyway, I have heard that the Dredge is theorized to be a baby entity, which kinda makes sense. It sports its own spider-like limbs, consumes a lot, and apparently has its own little realm within itself, which we can see in-game when it performs its Mori. So I like to think the entity puts the Dredge in some of the trials so they can grow big and strong just like it. Alright, enough of that, let's get to its abilities. In-game, the Dredge has 3 unique abilities: its Remnant, its passive Nightfall, and its ability to teleport to lockers. And while all 3 are unique, I think the main focus of this portrait should be his use of lockers, since he is the only killer who ever uses lockers as his main power. And sure, you have Huntress and Trickster who use lockers to reload the projectiles, but it's not core to their gameplay, unlike Dredge. So that's why I went with his locker ability mainly for this portrait. Now, I said that I wanted the locker ability to be the main point of his portrait, but I also want to include the Nightfall since no other killer really has a passive like that in-game. But you'll see that later on in this portrait. But anyway, to get this portrait started, I of course started with the locker itself. Since drawing the Dredge first and then the locker would probably just make the locker look really weird and wonky, so I'd rather have to draw the Dredge in the locker rather than drawing the locker around the Dredge, basically. So, once I got the base of the locker correct, I started to draw the Dredge, which I, of course drew in my sketchbook first before taking him to my canvas here. And drawing the Dredge was actually really fun because he's sort of like a Mr. Potato Head type of killer, at least in terms of drawing, where I don't have to exactly get the proportions right since he kind of is just like a bits of flesh coming out of smoke. And fun fact is actually the first of these 4 that I actually drew, so he was really good for me to like break the art block that I had while making these, at least at first. And while the main fleshy bits of the Dredge were easy to draw, it was kind of hard actually to get like the foggy part of his body, I guess you could say. Like, believe this or not, but his foggy parts are like 5 different layers, and it was really challenging to try to like balance it with his fleshy parts, but I feel like I did a good job with that. Another thing I wanted to add was during his Mori, he like sends out like a bunch of like hands with like knives and screwdrivers, and I wanted to include that here, but I felt like it was already a lot to put in, so I decided to cut those. Lastly, in terms of the coloring process, I actually had no problems with that. I just wanted to make this portrait a lot darker to help represent his Nightfall, which I did say at the beginning would be in this. I don't know if it looks good, so if enough people ask for it, maybe I'll post like a different version without the darkness, if people would like that. But anyways, the portrait is now complete. And for the final killer of today's video, it's the killer doll himself, Chucky. Now, no one requested for Charles in my last video, but I wanted to do him as a gift to my friend George. He's the one that helps me get the in-game footage for my videos. He's also a pretty big fan of the Child's Play series. He even introduced me to the franchise when Chucky came to Dead by Daylight, and I'm glad he did. Seriously, this doll is hilarious.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut!
And I'm very glad they kept his personality in Dead by Daylight. He says what we're all thinking when we're playing the game.
You're mine, asshole! Come here, you dumb shit! I will fucking kill you!
But anyway, for Chucky, it was pretty tricky to think of something for his portrait. Like, I wish there was something obvious about Chucky that I could emphasize in his portrait. Like something unique that Charles only has, you know? It's his height. Yeah. Chucky here is the complete opposite of Nemesis. Whereas Nemesis is the tallest killer by default, Chucky is the smallest killer by default. Which makes sense because, you know, he's a doll. And it's because of his height that became so controversial that he basically got gutted by the survivor community. So that's why I think his height is the best thing to emphasize here on his portrait. I wanted to have at least two things in mind before starting Chucky's portrait here. One being to give him a more cartoony look compared to the other killers. I know my art style is a lot more cartoony than it is realistic already, but since he is a doll, I wanted to give him more of a cartoony look compared to the other killers that I've done. Which is why he's a lot less dirtier compared to the other killers in my other portraits. The other thing I had in mind when making this portrait was finding an object or item in the game to help emphasize Chucky's height here. I went through a couple maps to see if there was any rubble or maybe foliage I could use. Then while looking through these maps, I had the idea of maybe using like a chest to represent Chucky's height, since in-game he's only just a little taller than the chest. But then after a few tries of trying to draw the chest on the portrait, I decided against it and actually chose a totem instead, since at first glance it would be a lot more recognizable than the chest, and also Chucky is exactly one totem tall in the game. So I thought it'd be perfect for him to be hiding behind a totem in his portrait here. But I also had to make the grass a little bigger so, you know, it would look like he's a lot lower to the ground since he is shorter than most. But anyway, for Chucky's expression here, I actually wanted him to have like a shushing type of pose where he's like shushing at the camera. But I feel like it would be a lot more in character if he just gave you the middle finger. I don't know, I thought it'd be a lot sillier than just him shushing towards the camera. For the background, as you can see, it was a generator at one point, but my friend gave me an excellent suggestion of switching it out with Survivor's Healing instead, which is way better than what I came up with the generator. It also makes a lot more sense for his little footsteps, the little white footsteps. And I know those don't appear for Chucky, but I think he does have an add-on that allows him to do that, so I'm just gonna say that he has the add-on on. Lastly, I had nothing too difficult with the coloring process, just a bit lengthy with Chucky's little undershirt there, but other than that, the portrait is now complete. and with that I add more killers to my collection. Now before I end off the video, I just want to give a massive thank you to anyone who watched my first video, and or if you're watching this one. When I uploaded that first video, I was feeling really down about my art, and I didn't think anyone would really care for that video. It was really cool to read all the comments you guys left on that video. I haven't felt that good about my art in a while, so truly thank you. But anyways, again, if you got a specific killer you want me to do in the future, please let me know down in the comment section. Or if you want to see more things made from me, please head over to my other socials. Thank you and goodbye.